guys, we'd love to buy swabs directly from you. And we were able to lock them in for a 6-month contract. And so what that did for us is that not only had we made a decent amount of money and supported the business by doing the city contract up until that point, as that was starting to end, we found a replacement revenue source, which was selling directly to a hospital. And that gave us another 6 months of guaranteed revenue that we could plan on and use to grow the company. So now, this was what we worked on in September, is we were able to say, okay, now we've put some money in the bank. We've survived through this very tough economic time. And now we can turn our focus back to our core technology, which is these exciting nanoparticles and all this stuff. And we can get back to that, and we can start moving ahead with what we really want to be doing, right? Which isn't swabs, which is our neat technology we have. And in the end, this sort of little kind of project around swabs that we got ourselves into, meant that we went from in February having essentially zero revenue to we're on track now because of that Montefiore contract. We're on track to finish the year with probably over $5 million in revenue and over $2 million in profit. Right. So the effect of us getting into this business, the swab business, is that we accomplished the same thing that we wanted to do when we tried to raise money. We were looking for about $2 million. We're going to end up with about $2 million in the bank. And we didn't have to give up any equity in the company because we didn't have to take on outside investors. So it was very hard and very difficult, and it was a lot of work. But we were able to take a very bad situation, which was not having any money, and through being kind of flexible and creative and kind of grinding it out, accomplish the same result as what we wanted to, and even better because we didn't have to give up that equity. And it's put us in a really great position now to finish off the year. We're going to wind down the swab business because that's not our core focus and what we want to be doing. But it was something that, it was an opportunity that presented itself, and we took full advantage of it. So I want to show you guys a little bit about the process here. So this was our swab lab. So we set up a dedicated swab lab in a second office in the building that we're in on 23rd Street, right by the Flatiron building in Manhattan. So this was an empty room. You can see there my partner Bobby sitting on the floor there. This room was, I can't stress enough, literally an empty room. There was no paint. The HVAC systems that you see on the ceiling, we put all those in. We put all these eight of these advanced 3D printers. The other printers on the left there are some of our existing printers that we had. We built a custom unit there with the lights. That's for curing the swabs. We won't get tied up in the technical details, but we had to build that ourselves. That was a custom machine we built to help with the swabs. And then you can see me down there. We had these, essentially for weeks, we had these massive wooden crates showing up on 23rd Street. And this was in the middle of the pandemic in Manhattan. So it was a ghost town. It was kind of like a zombie movie out there. But we'd have semi trucks showing up, dropping off these massive crates with all the equipment and the supplies that we were working on. So it was a lot of work, a lot of fun. And then 2 weeks later, this is what we had. We had set up a dedicated swab lab, FDA compliant, quality control mechanisms in place. You can see me there examining a swab under a microscope, and we had our employees, and we were fully, in production as a medical device manufacturing operation, in the heart of Manhattan, during the pandemic. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Pratt Industrial Design Program. Julia is our lab tech that we brought on. And she actually ran the 3D printing lab at Pratt, and she's been absolutely excellent. So good job, Pratt. She's been a real asset to us. So that's the lab that we got set up. And I just wanted to talk, about just, there was so many things going on. This was very complicated to put together. But we pulled it off, and there was some of the challenges, that we faced that, I wanted to touch on, and there was a lot of challenges around supply chain. You can imagine that during the pandemic, everybody wanted swabs, and the only way to make them was with 3D printers because there was no other way to get swabs into the country. So it was hard to get 3D printers. So it was very difficult for us to secure these 8 3D printers that we were depending on. Simple things like paper towels and rubber gloves were very, very difficult to find during that time period. There was a Home Depot down the street, and every morning one of us would go to the Home Depot and try to get the paper towels before they all sold out. The same with rubber gloves. So there was a lot of challenges just opening the facility because of what was going on during the pandemic. We had a lot of problems with the production, right? Just learning. We were learning how to do this as we went. So you have 8 machines here. You have a lot of swabs. You have 400 swabs per machine every 4 hours. So a high volume of swabs coming off of these printers. And so how do you manage that? How do you post-process them? How do you clean them? How do you bag them? How do you label them? These are all very hard things to do. And we had to build processes around these things. The other thing, regulatory issues. I touched on the FDA issue. So this was, this is a federally regulated medical device. And so it's not impossible to get into that business, but it's hard because there's so many rules, right? And so we had these really excellent consultants who helped us through that process. But there was a lot of things that we had to do. We had to document everything. We had to have, extensive paperwork showing that these things had been sterilized, that they've been processed in the right way. That we've complied with all of these various, regulations around how you manufacture a medical device, which obviously is in everybody's best interest because we all, use these devices from time to time, and we want to make sure that they're safe. We had a lot of challenges. We were fortunate in the sense that we were very agile. There was just myself and my partner. There were other companies that tried to do what we did, but most of them failed, and they failed because they were big. They were big companies. They weren't agile. They had too many people, right? So they had too many costs associated with what they were doing, and they weren't able to quickly maneuver and adjust. Whereas because it was just 2 of us, we were able to do that successfully. So, when I think about sort of the what we learned from this experience, I think that the biggest thing, right, is the number one issue is just you have to be creative and be resourceful. And so when you're in a situation like that where you have a business plan and the whole thing goes to hell, you have to look around and say, okay, what do I have? What you can't be negative. You have to say, what are my options to move forward? What assets do I have? In our case, it was we were knowledgeable about 3D printing. We were experts in 3D printing, and we had some 3D printers. And we said, okay, what can we do? How can we make some money here? The next big one, right, is product market fit. And this is an incredibly important concept that James is going to be talking to you guys a lot of over the program. And it's essentially, we really boil down to what it means is that you have to have a product that someone wants to buy. And if you don't have something that someone's going to pay for, then you don't have a business yet. And this is very, very important. And it's very hard to do. In our case, the way we did this was we spent weeks talking with the city and building a relationship with them so that we understood what they actually needed. And then we were able to build our business and structure the business around what they needed. And so we were able to to make sure that when we invested in all those equipment, when we took out that loan, we weren't doing it, just on the hope that someone was going to buy our swabs. We knew we had a customer for the swabs because we'd spent that time building that relationship. Partners and suppliers you can rely on is very important. Nobody does these things alone. And you have to trust your supply chain partners. And you have to collaborate with people. We were very good at printing the swabs. But we knew that we couldn't print enough swabs, right? So we went out and found other companies and said, hey, if you guys buy the same printer that we're using and print swabs, we'll buy as many as you can print, right? And so we created relationships with those companies. They made money off of this. We made money off of this. So everyone was happy, and we built a nice ecosystem around this problem and this project. Consultants, that was for us, that was the FDA consultants. And broadly speaking, you have to remember, to bring in the right people. We didn't know about FDA stuff. And so we needed to bring those people in because we would have messed it up on our own, or it would have taken us a really long time. So it's really important to, have a clear understanding of your own strengths and weaknesses and fill those gaps with the right people to accomplish what you need to do. Also future-proofing it. So for us, this was why I didn't want to say that we pivoted our business, because the machines that we bought for the swabs we're going to use for lots of other projects, right? And all the equipment that we bought for the swabs, we're going to use for other things. And so, it's not a waste of equipment. It wasn't a waste of money. So even, we now exit the swab business with a whole bunch of great equipment that we were able to pay for by doing the swabs. And so now we can take that equipment. We can also take those relationships we built with our suppliers, with our partners, and we can, because we had a good relationship with them, everybody's happy, and we can do more business with them in the future. So that's going to increase the value of our business and theirs. And as an example of that, you can see these two coins down at the bottom. This was something that we did because we wanted to, we wanted everybody who we worked with in this project to feel some ownership of the project and understand that this just wasn't a normal business thing. This was a pandemic, right? This was important. And we wanted everyone to feel like they were part of something special, not just a business transaction. So we had these coins made, and you can see both sides of them. This is a challenge coin. And we had 1,000 of these made, and we distributed them to everybody who had anything to do with the project, which frankly was about 1,000 people when you counted all the employees at the different companies we worked with, et cetera. And we sent these out to everybody. And the idea for us is that, obviously we wanted people to feel like they were part of something special. But in the future, when someone sees that coin, we want them to think of us, think of Print Parts, and say, wow, like those guys were great to work with. Like that wasn't just business, that was a relationship. And that's really, really important. When you're trying to get through these tough times, is to help each other out and build that kind of that team spirit between different partners and people. You want to stay lean. This was important too. If you find yourself in a situation where the world changes on you and you lose your business, you lose your customer, you lose your in our case, our source of funding, it's very important that you're lean. So we were 2 people, and so we had a very low cost, and so we were able to, slowly add employees. So we were able to remain profitable and not overextend ourselves. And we were able to, as we built out our operation, we continually, every time we looked at a problem, we said, well, what's the way we can automate this? How can we make this cheaper in the long run, right? We'll spend money now so that in the long run, it's cheaper, right? So you have to think that way when you're in tough times. And then the biggest one, James knows me very well. He knew me through this period as well. And I was incredibly stressed out and didn't take care of myself. I had some, lost a bunch of weight, too much weight, not in the good way. And it was hard. It really was a strain on myself, a strain on my relationship. And so you have to remember to take care of yourself and remember to breathe. Because it can be very, very stressful going through this sort of period as an entrepreneur and as a business. But if it's not always going to work out, but you don't do yourself any favors by not taking care of yourself. So that's something you really have to prioritize when you're going through these sorts of periods. And that's everything. So that's kind of just a snapshot of kind of the adventure that we had over at Print Parts during the pandemic. And I hope it kind of, the main takeaway on this is that, there's always opportunities. You're going to have setbacks. Things are going to be tough. But if you stay positive and you're resourceful and creative, you can find opportunities in the toughest times and manage to come out of them on top or frankly, even stronger than when you went in. So that's it. And I think we'll kind of kick it back to James and see if you guys have any questions or feedback. Would be great to hear.
Thank you, Cody. I personally love this story, and as an additional little story addendum, would you be open to telling the story of the labels?
Oh, the labels on the swabs?
Yeah.
Which one? Sorry, there was many.
From the first week, your first delivery with the labels. I know that's like 8 years ago for you.
It is. Refresh my memory.
When you had ordered the label maker and they had shipped it and.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think, I'm trying to remember which one that was. We had a whole bunch of ones with these. We had a lot of instances with I think, are you talking about where they shipped the wrong labels?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a lot of that kind of stuff. We had, and again, this was all very quick, right? Like, we had New York City saying to us, "Hey, we need 100,000 swabs by the end of the week from you," right? And there's a lot of steps these things had to go through, and so we had a lot of challenges around that kind of thing, where we would have, the label machine and the labels, but no ink cartridges for the machine, right? Or something to that effect. We had swabs that we would order swabs from a supplier, and they would show up and they would all be bent, right? So we had things like that happen. We had a truck full of swabs get in an accident on the George Washington Bridge one day. So we couldn't get the swabs to the hospital in time. So we had loads of challenges. I'd say it was every day we would have something that would go wrong, some sort of challenge, but we pushed through it. And in the end, we developed a pretty efficient swab operation. It's frankly so efficient that we've now actually spent time on the phone with other hospitals or hospitals and other medical companies who are trying to make swabs, because we managed to sort of be one of the first movers in that space. And so we built up some expertise around how you actually do it and what are the ins and outs of the business. So, not something I would have expected to be an expert in if you would have asked me this, 6 months ago. But here we are.
Awesome. So does anybody have any questions for Cody?
Yes, I do. Hi, my name is Amber from Design Management Program. This is an amazing story, Cody. And one of the biggest questions I have is that seems like the business really started moving and pushing because of the deal you have with the city. So I wonder, how do you lock down the deal? Like, can you tell us a little more process of, like, you have relationship with the city, like when you talk weeks with the city, like how they trust you as a business, like you only have 2 people.
So that's a really good question. So the way that we got, in with the city, and this could be a whole talk just on this topic, frankly, because we built a relationship with the city by reaching out to the city and essentially offering our services, right? So we said, look, like, we're a 3D printing company. We're in Manhattan. We know you guys are looking to build a supply chain for 3D printed supplies in the city. And we just started talking to them and educating them about 3D printing, because frankly, they didn't know anything about 3D printing. And so they were coming to us and saying, well, can you guys print ventilator splitters, right? And we're like, well, we could, but here's why we don't want to do that, because of the liability, because of, and it was sort of this process of collaboratively with the city, finding the part that was the right thing for us to print, which it was the swab in the end. That turned out to be the highest value part, where we said, okay, we can really do this at volume and figure this out. We were very naive, but that at the time we thought we had it all figured out. And we just built that relationship with them. And when they wanted something, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks, delivering swabs to them, because the city said, okay, we might buy swabs from you, but we're going to be giving it to this specific hospital in Staten Island. They want a swab sample. And so my partner would take a swab and drive to Staten Island and drop it off at the hospital personally. And he did that. And one day he went to all 5 boroughs, dropping off swab samples, right? And we paid for those out of our own pocket. We bought those from a supplier, to prove to the city that we were going to deliver something, and we could deliver something that met their standards, was safe, all these things. We also had to, when we would bring on a vendor, so we found someone to do the sterilization. So we had to coordinate and make sure the city knew who that person was and they felt comfortable with them, right? So there was a lot of just relationship building to get to that point. And we were not the only company doing this. Like when we were working with the city, there was probably at least 2 other companies, local companies in New York, who also do 3D printing, that were trying to get this contract. So we were competing with other companies for this contract. But as far as we can tell, we just worked harder. Like we went out of our way. We were the ones that always picked up the phone. When they wanted to talk to someone, we went and we found the doctor at Harvard who had done the original studies on the swabs, and we connected them. We all sat on a conference call together, and we just said, hey, like, city, here's Dr. So-and-so. do you have any questions? Like, how can we get everybody comfortable with what we're doing? You know, and that in the end, that paid off. You know, we know that we won the bid because of that effort. You know, so now the city trusts us. You know, also we were never late. You know, that was a priority from day one. We said to ourselves, we said, no matter what we have to do, we are never going to miss a delivery. We're never going to be the problem, you know, in this big supply chain that the city had set up. So that was, you know, that was really, really important to do. Contracts are hard, and it's not the same as just like throwing up a website and selling, you know, trying to sell something, right? Getting into a contract, the money's better and it's recurring and steady, but you have to work a lot harder to get it. It is tricky to do. But in this case, it was the right thing to do because we knew when we went out and bought all those printers that we had a business to, you know, we knew we were going to be able to pay off the printers. We knew we were going to be able to make some money, as opposed to just taking a gamble and saying like, let's print swabs and put them on a website, right? Like that wouldn't have worked at all.
Sorry, I do have a following question when you say that a contract. So may I know when you are talking to the city, are you the one who bring up, okay, we're going to do this contract, or they like, how's the negotiation process with the city? Yeah, so we went through sort of this educational period, right, where we were just talking to them and you know, getting them comfortable with the idea of 3D printing a swab. And then they came to us and said, okay, you know, we want to order 100,000 swabs, 25,000 a week, right? And that was the original contract. And we said, fine, that's fine. You know, we're going to charge you $3.50 a swab, and we want 50% as a deposit to help us pay for materials. Okay. The city said, okay, that's fine. Now, the tricky part with them is that when they came back to us and started doubling the orders, so then they came back and said, okay, now we want 200,000 and now we want 300,000. When they did that, they pushed us down on price. So they would say, okay, we're going to up your order, but we're going to beat you up on the price a little bit. And we're going to try to, you know, we want you to go to $3.25, you know, and then to $3, right? So that's the negotiation that you go through with someone like that. In the end, it still makes sense for us because it was such a high volume of swabs that we were okay with the discount. But it was a constant, you know, it was a negotiation, you know, but in the end, they were to your original question, they were the one who came to us and said, here's the contract, you know, this is how many we want, you know, but then again, they kept kind of, you know, creeping it up over time.
An important note with those sort of relationships, the larger the group you're dealing with, that's in comparison with you, the more likely it is that they're just going to hand you a contract. The smaller the group, the more likely you're going to want to hand them a contract. Mm-hmm. So when you're dealing with small partners, like there's a certain level where you're like, okay, we're all friends here, but when possible, lock it down with the contract if you can when you're doing work, because otherwise it's just too easy for people to not pay you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just, you know, again, because there was different ways to do this, because like there were other companies that also decided, hey, let's 3D print swabs, right? Like it seems like a good idea, and we built relationships with a lot of those people over the summer. And what happened is the companies that decided to 3D print swabs and invested in the printers and started printing swabs, the ones that didn't have a customer locked in with a contract, all failed and got out of the business because printing them was not necessarily the hard part, but selling the swabs was very hard because of all the regulatory issues, and because each individual hospital had to validate it and say, yes, like I like the swab, it works well with the patients, it works with all our testing equipment, all these little things. And so in this case, it was a situation where we kind of, you know, I don't want to say won, but we beat out a lot of these other much larger companies because we had the customer first. So like we had a contract signed before we even started printing, right? So we knew that, you know, that if we fired up this lab and made these investments, we knew there was the customer. And a lot of people did it the other way, and they've really, really struggled because of that.
Oh, I have a question about writing the contracts. So would you find a lawyer for helping you writing the contract,
Yes.
or
Yes, absolutely.
how's the process? So when you have the offer, and then you will find a lawyer, and the lawyer will give you all the details about the contracts.
Yeah, so we have we have a lawyer for our company. He doesn't work, he's not an employee, but he's a lawyer that we have a relationship with, and he would review all of our contracts. Absolutely, and there were little things in there. So, like, for example, when we entered into when they gave us the first version of the contract, they had a clause in there that said that they could cancel essentially at any time, right? And if they canceled the contract, they weren't obligated to pay us for the swabs. That, let's say that I was printing swabs all week, but I hadn't delivered the swabs to the city, and the city could be like, on a Friday, nope, we're done. I wouldn't get paid for the swabs that I'd spent that week printing. And so our lawyer pushed back and was like, no, like, if you cancel the contract, you have to pay for the last 2 weeks of material that was purchased, of, right? So your lawyer protects you from those sorts of things, and they can be a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes because they take forever to review contracts. And but I think the saying I've heard, and James, you've probably heard it and can correct me, but I remember it. The saying is there's nothing as expensive as a cheap lawyer. So don't skimp on that, especially with a contract like this.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question, Cody.
Yeah, sure.
So you said, so part of the contract was, like, an example, you said 25,000 swabs a week.
Sure.
In a day, how much did you print to meet that goal? Like, I guess where I'm trying to get is, like, how fast does a printer print a swab? Like,
right.
What's the timing on that?
Yeah. So the way the printer that we used, and we evaluated a couple different printers to pick the one that we wanted to buy. We bought the one we did because it was pretty fast. And so one printer would do 400 swabs in 4 hours. And we had 8 printers. So then it's just a math game. You say, okay, if I have 8 printers and I want to run them, 5 times a day, right? Then that's how many swabs you start to add up the numbers. Now, again, we started doing the math on it, and we realized that there was no way that we could produce enough swabs off of our own printers to meet. I mean, because again, especially when they came back and said, okay, now we want 700,000, and they wanted that in a month. So that's, crazy amounts of swabs. So that's when we really started going out to these other companies who were like us, and just said to them, look, guys, like, buy the same printer I have, run the same material, same swab file, fill out your FDA paperwork, so we're all good, and we'll just buy them from you, right? So we built a supply chain. I'd say of the 1 million swabs, we probably printed about 1/3 of those ourselves. And the other ones we were able to secure through our partners that we set up.
Thank you.
I still have a question about the contract. So when you start your business, like, in what point should you bring in a lawyer?
I don't know, James, that might be a good one for you, actually, because you've started to do more than me.
Yeah. So when you're starting a business, the moment it gets real, i.e., you're looking at forming the company, whether that's an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, whatever it is, you should be talking to a lawyer. Mm-hmm. The moment you start going down that path, you should be talking to a lawyer, and some lawyers will work on deferral of fees. Most won't. Any good startup lawyer will, but the reality is they're only going to do that if you're starting to invest immediately, or starting to look for investment immediately, and there's promise. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so. To James's point there, the attorney that we have, our lawyer Glenn, we didn't pay him until about a month ago, probably, because we gave him equity in our company as payment, and so he started working with us. Before I even started at the company, before I left my last job to join the startup, he had been working with my partner. And that was the agreement they had reached, because he's a very experienced lawyer, and he saw a lot of potential in our business. And so he said, okay, you know what, like I'll work with you until you can pay me because I know you don't have any money. And as a payment, I want, 1% of equity because I believe in what you're doing. Right. So he's actually a partner in our business in that sense. Like he actually has a vested interest in us doing well. And then once, obviously once we started making some money, he started sending us bills, but that's okay because we got a lot of free work out of him. So, or not free, we gave him equity, but so there's other ways to kind of, manage that.
And with any other contract or legal related questions, we're going to go over all of that in session 4. If you want to set up time to talk through it, I'm happy to I've been through the legal world for years, so I'm happy to talk through like the ups and downs of what you can expect and when's the best time. The thing I can say about lawyers is early and often. Yeah. And just don't write too many contracts, basically. Have a boilerplate, move forward with that. But we can talk about, I'm happy to meet with anyone or the group to talk about that sometime between now and next session if you want. Any other questions for Cody?
May I ask one more? I feel I have a million questions.
Go wild. Ask 20.
I super agree that you said being resourceful, especially during this hard time, and the example you have about reaching to the city and even like reaching to a doctor in Harvard University. Those are the keys. And I wonder if you can share us any tips about how you reach to them, like how they wanted to talk to you and do the things you want to ask them to do.
Yeah, so I think I think you have to reach out to people without necessarily a specific agenda sometimes, right? And like for example, the city, we reached out to them and we didn't go to them and make like a sales pitch. We went to them and said, hey, like we have these capabilities and we're in the city. What can we, how can we find something, that we can do together, right? So there's a difference in tone. If I just like sent the city a brochure and said, I'll sell you a swab for $4 and a ventilator splitter for $5, and they're not gonna pay much attention to that, right? So they needed help, in this project, and not just in the sense of they needed a swab. They needed to understand how do we build a manufacturing supply chain in the city. So we were able. It was a collaboration, right? The doctors at Harvard, that's a fascinating one because it sounds intimidating. You say, oh, it's a doctor at Harvard, and you get this idea that this is a very unapproachable person, but that's not. I would never make that assumption ever. You always should just try, because in this case, the doctor at Harvard was, you have to remember what his agenda is. His agenda was to help solve the COVID crisis by getting swabs onto the market. So he had worked with other 3D printing companies to get the swabs through clinical trials and get that kind of clinical data. So when we reached out to him and said, hey, we're going to start printing swabs based on the clinical data that you've created, would you be willing to talk to New York City, so they can get comfortable with it? He of course he said yes, right? Because that was what he was working on, so you just have to understand what people want and come to them in that collaborative mindset, and also just never be afraid to reach out. I mean, the vendor, the 3D printing company that we bought the printers from, they're called Envision Tech. We just called the CEO. We called the CEO up and said, hey, we want to 3D print swabs. We think your printer is the right printer for us. How many can you get us? We didn't talk to a sales guy. We just went right to the CEO, and he was highly motivated to sell us those 3D printers because he was also operating in COVID and his business was cratering. And so he was like, fantastic news. Like, I'd love to send you a bunch of printers, and I'll send you swabs, to help you meet your numbers. Because it was good for him and his business, so you have to find those win-wins, right? Where everybody gets something. You're not taking, you're providing something in exchange.
I'm actually, yeah. So how many of you have ever done a cold call? By raise of hands.
Can you repeat the word?
Cold call. I.e. called somebody
What's a cold call?
Let's explain what it is, James.
Yeah, cold calling is reaching out to somebody you've never met before, never spoken to, never had any relationship with, never interacted with in any way, and tried to build rapport and start a relationship off of a single email or call.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
Can I say something real quick, James,
Yeah.
before you explain that? This is super important. When I was at Columbia University, the first year, and I didn't study in the MBA program, but I was at the university, and I heard from a professor who worked at the MBA program that said that one of the first year assignments was you have to make 10 important cold calls, and 90% of MBA students at an Ivy League school failed that assignment, because it's one of the number one fears that people have is being rejected. So I think that that's super important to put into context. James.
Yeah. So basically, cold calling is crucial to all of this. To Cody's point, you don't need to know someone. You don't have to know someone or talk to someone to actually be able to make that call. In my career, I have made over 60,000 cold calls. And those are to random people. It's just be comfortable with it and follow the mantra. If you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. Where if you come to someone with an agenda saying, hey, I got this thing, I want to sell it to you, they're not going to pay attention to you. But to Cody's point, if you go to someone and say, hey, I'm approaching this problem, I'm looking to solve it, I know you guys are looking to solve this as well, would it be worth us syncing together to see how we can both solve this a little bit faster? Doing that is a lot better. If you reach out to someone and say, hey, if Cody reached out to you and you're a hospital and is like, I got 1 million swabs, you want a swab? I'll send you a swab. Swabs are great. How many of you, if you were a hospital administrator, would come in and be like, okay, this is a good idea? Cody kind of sounds like a backpack salesman there, doesn't he? And so
he's leading with what's in it for him. He's already presenting something before he first hears what do you need, so he's leading with that.
Yep. But yeah, so that, to Cody's point, 1,000%, make the relationship with the person not transactional. You're not reaching out for a thing. You're reaching out to start a conversation. And the goal of that first outreach is never to get them to do a thing. You will never reach out, and I can, all caps, never reach out to someone and get them to do exactly what you want them to do on the first call. In your life, it will never happen. What will happen is if you reach out to somebody with the goal of having a conversation, and your goal of that conversation is having another conversation, guess what? You're going to make a friend.
Yeah. One thing to add there, and when we reached out to the city and started building that relationship, they needed the swab. We were one person who could do that. We knew full well there were other companies that could do that as well. We didn't exclude them from the conversation. So the goal, our number one goal was, let's get the city comfortable with 3D printed swabs, right? Because our belief was that there was more than enough demand to go around. So we were not actively trying to exclude any of the other companies that could do this for the city. In fact, quite the opposite. When we had the call with the Harvard guy, we actually brought on one of the other companies because we viewed this as a collaborative effort among all the 3D printing companies in New York City to try to address this issue and supply the swabs for the city. Now, in the end, the city decided that they only wanted to work with one vendor because that would be easier. And we were the ones that had been the facilitator and had brought the other people into the conversation. So they naturally went with us, right? Because we'd put ourselves in that leadership position of saying like, hey, we want to organize this. Let's get everyone in on this. Let's do it. Through that, it became apparent to the city that we were probably the best vendor to go with, right? Because of that, the way we were approaching it. Whereas my gut tells, I don't know this for a fact, but my gut tells me that the other two vendors in the city that were also bidding on this project were probably just kind of holding back, letting us do the work, and then we're going to try to come in and get the business. But the city was like, no, like we need to feel more comfortable with the vendor, and we're going to go with the guy that has been, talking to us for a month, right? So, so never underestimate, you don't, it's not a zero-sum game, right? You go in there, you're trying to solve a problem. And if you do that well, then you'll get the business.
Sorry, can I ask one question? So my name is Lindsay, and I'm a jewelry designer. And first of all, I want to thank you for sharing your story and everything that's contributed. And it's certainly a very positive work to see. But I'm also wondering if you can share more about your relationship or the collaboration process with the industrial designer. Like, how did you find her? Did you set up a contract with her? And what was her takeaway from this event or this program?
There you go. So that's it. Julia is a really, really great, example of kind of the other side of this sort of, kind of hustle process. So she was an industrial design student here at Pratt. She loves 3D printers. And so she found herself a job managing the 3D printing and CNC facilities at Pratt. And she started her own industrial design business as a freelancer. She met my partner several years ago. They were both working out of a WeWork in Manhattan, and she noticed that he had 3D printers. And so she would just, kind of invite herself into his office, frankly, and offer to help with the 3D printers because she just wanted to play with the printers and she just liked it. So she would come in and offer, say, hey, do you need help cleaning the printers? Do you, is there anything I can help with? And then she would periodically email my partner and once every probably 6 months, she would email him for the past several years and just be like, hey, what are you doing? I'm really interested in what you're working on. Is there anything I can do to help? And so when we realized that we desperately needed to bring in an employee, it was just such an obvious choice because she had expressed so much interest in what we were doing, even before swabs, just in general. And so we had her come in and her abilities, her passion for the printing and the printers, was great. It was exactly what we needed. Now we are using her industrial design experience to get her interfacing with clients on other projects because she has a whole bunch of skill sets that we're not tapping yet, right? So, so for her, it was, I think it was that, the base knowledge from industrial design and having worked with printers before, and then just that passion and again, it kind of goes back to that general theme of she just had always been someone who wanted to do something and get involved. And it was never about money. It was never about, I want this specific role. She just wanted to be a part of what we were doing. And so it just made a lot of sense to bring her on.
Cody also brings up another really good point with this, which is persistence. So the reason she made it beyond that stage and the reason why you will get in touch with people is not that first touch, rarely again. It's generally going to be a second or third. I've reached out to a ton of people that just missed the first email. I have 67,000 unread emails between 3 inboxes. I know that's trash and I'm a terrible person, but I miss things from time to time. And generally it takes a second email for me to get it.
I got a quick question. So when you were pivoting, or not exactly pivoting, as you said, but changing your focus during COVID to the swabs, were you how did you conceive of what happens next after that, or were you just not even thinking about that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, and this is something that we've been as a company, as Print Parts, we've been doing a lot of thinking on, because one of the dangers of these kinds of opportunities as a business is that it can throw you way off track, right? Because you can pursue these sorts of short-term revenue opportunities, and then find yourself let's say a vaccine comes out at the end of the year, or a big company decides they want to make swabs, right? And then they put us out of business on swabs. And if I had hired, 20 people to run a swab business, then all of a sudden I would be in a very bad position, because I would have, my costs would be super high. I'd be not doing what I want to be doing, which is the cool technology we have. And I would have built the wrong company, right? Pursuing like a shiny object. So it's a hard balance, because we always told ourselves with the swab, the joke we had internally was like, oh, we're going to do this for 1 month. Another 2 more, maybe 1 more month. Okay, 1 more month, right? But we tried to do it in such a way that we stayed lean. We didn't expand too much. And that's partly why we were using partners to help us supply more swabs, because I could have easily said, I'm going to buy, 20 printers, right? And move into a bigger facility and sign a bigger lease and hire, 20 more people and do all of this myself. But I didn't want to do that, because when the swab business eventually does end for us, that's not the company I want to be. I want to be a technology company, a software company, working with the cool stuff we have. I don't want to be a company that just makes swabs, so this was it's a tough one. It's a good question. And there's examples of, lots of examples of companies that have, because they have a short-term revenue opportunity that is not what they really want to be doing, that they get pulled off track, and then it dries up. And then what do? You've painted yourself into a corner, in a place you don't want to be. So it's a hard one. It's a tricky balance to strike, but I think we threaded the needle on it, successfully, I think, so far. But it's definitely something to consider.
If I can just follow up. So
Yeah.
So now where are you at with the company? Like how has that pivot happened, basically?
Yeah. So where we are now today is that we spent September, and mostly September. We spent September as kind of like a regrouping month. So we did a lot of thinking, a lot of strategizing, and we thought to ourselves, okay, so what have we done, right? We basically traded our summer. We don't even look at it as revenue per se. We traded our summer. We worked really hard. We knocked a couple of years off our life, probably, in the swab mines, to put a bunch of money in the bank, right? Which was the same amount of money that we wanted to go raise from investors. So we had to then say, okay, now what do we do? Let's pretend that we just raised this money from investors. Forget that we made it during swaps. It doesn't matter. So now we just hired a chief product officer, who's a really, really outstanding candidate, who is frankly way more experienced than we are, and a much better hire than I thought we were going to get at this point. But we have money now, right? We have money in the bank. So now the challenge for us is, let's spend the money well. So we hired a really great chief product officer to help us develop our nanoparticle technology. We are bringing on software developers. We're going to be hiring a material scientist. So now we're going to build the company we wanted to build 6 months ago. The difference is that now we have the money in the bank to do it, right? So that's it. It's been hard. It's been a big challenge that we've had to deal with, is balancing the short-term opportunity of the swabs versus the long-term value that we want to build in our technology, right? That is totally separate.
Well, thank you, Cody. Everybody give him a big round of applause, or not the loudest applause, but all right.
It's fine. It's good. Cool. Thanks, guys. I have to jump. This was just a drop in, but good luck with the program, and I'll definitely be seeing you guys again. I like to come back and check in usually towards the end of the program and hear the pitches. So like I said, you guys are in good hands, and have fun, and listen to James. He's been around the block. So
Thank you so much, Cody. It was great having
Thank you, Cody.
Right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All righty,
Great.
everybody. At this point, we are going to take a bio break. Well, I am. You guys do whatever you want. And we will return in 5 minutes.
1:36. We'll see you at 1:36 sharp.
All right, let's start to wander on back. If everyone wants to do a quick stretch, just get a little stretch in here. Get a little arm movement. Get your backs feeling good. If you're in a prone position with your legs, make sure you're getting a little movement there. Stand up, kind of feel a little better. This is the time. Do what Carl's doing. Oh man. Just get some movement going. I know these longer Zoom calls can be like, you get to the end of it, you move, and all of a sudden your knee's like, I don't want to go there, guy. And so, a little stretch. All right. So, does anybody have any questions off the back end of Cody's presentation that they wanted to ask that came up over the break? All right, cool. So we'll be sending Cody's information out after this for y'all to connect with him if you want. He will also be back later. As he mentioned, he is going to be here for the final session, which is when we listen to your final pitches. It is session 5. And that is going to be a session where you all take the front stage, get up, and show us what you got.
March 6th, to be exact. March 6th.
I know it's 2021, which given 2020 may never happen. I don't know. This feels like the year that will never end.
Or it could be in person. Who knows? Who knows?
What an interesting world we're moving into. Who knows? One day we could all be within 30 feet of each other. All right. So, is everybody back? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you have returned. All right, almost everybody's back. Got a few outliers, but that's all good. All right, so for the second half of today, it's all about your idea. So kind of talking through what an idea looks like. I'm actually gonna go and do a pitch for a business I've been developing, and then we'll walk through the anatomy of that pitch, why I put things where they went, how I validated each of those ideas, and what you can expect going into creating your own pitches and all of that. And then from there, we're gonna listen to your 1-minute pitches you have prepared.
And James, a quick question for you and Famika is, how are we going to enforce the 1-minute time limit, and how important is that for people to really adhere to for this to work?
We have a lot of people. We have 42 people in this chat. If we don't stick to 1 minute, 42 people in 25 teams. If we don't stick to a 1-minute limit, we're going to be here until 5 p.m. I don't know about you guys. I have plans to stay inside and socially distance from everyone. So that said, stick to the 1 minute. I will be timing you, and we will.
We can literally press mute after 1 minute, you know. So like Famika, if you're okay with that, as soon as it hits 1 minute, just mute the person. And we don't do that to be punitive at all. It's literally just an exercise, because it's really important to not just have a good idea, but to able to be concise when you articulate that idea. So it's a great growth opportunity for you. If you get cut off, it's not personal. There's nothing wrong with you. It just gives you an opportunity to work on it next time. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Let me also pull up a timer for you guys. just in case. Okay, awesome. Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I'm going to jump into my pitch first, which will not be 1 minute. But at that point, once you guys go, so this is an actual product I have been developing. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a revenue operations consultant, and I realized there's a massive hole in the CRM space recently. So here we go. This is allons. Allons means let's go in French, and it is dorkly from allons-y, which is Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor. Used to say that a lot. Big fan. Anyway, so welcome to allons. We're making operations easier. So what is allons? Allons is a CRM business, and we've started building this because we realized that over 90% of businesses who have 10 employees or more have a CRM. I mean, in fact, how many of you who work in business have a CRM? Exactly, almost everyone. And that the category is actually projected to grow 14%. CAGR for everyone here means compound annual growth rate. Is projected to grow 14% year over year up until 2025. However, being a $56 billion industry, having 90% of businesses having a CRM and it costing an average of $1,000 to up to $1 million to deploy, and that $1 million number isn't made up. I just worked with a company that spent $1.3 million implementing a CRM. Yeah.
James, real quick, we're getting a lot of what is a CRM from our people.
Don't mute me. CRM, customer relationship management. So a CRM is, if you've ever heard of Salesforce.com, it is a platform where you store all of your contacts, everyone, everything that you use for a business. We're actually going to be working, I'm going to show you one that I built in session 3. But even with people spending over $1 million implementing CRMs, and these are companies with billions of dollars in revenue, over 30% of CRM implementations fail. Over 30%. And when they don't fail, you have an average of 26% adoption on Teams. So we realized that with such a crowded market, it kind of feels like pre-Google internet. Back when we had to go ask Jeeves, back when we had everybody would look on Wikipedia, Wolfram Alpha, all those different tools. The marketing and ad tech space is feeling the exact same. So what we're doing is we're building a CRM built to align everyone, whether that's team management, data governance, customer success and retention, enterprise resource planning, across the board, no matter what industry, no matter what vertical. We were here to align everyone, fix the gaps in their systems, utilizing full sales cycle reporting and intuitive onboarding that accounts for literally every aspect of your business so that we can create a CRM built for everyone. Flexible enough for any industry, any channel, whether that's retail, manufacturing, enterprise B2B SaaS. SaaS is software as a service. And enterprise means B2B. Any scale and any sales methodology. No matter what your process, our system will adapt as you use it and create a simple interface so that your people can spend time selling, not time entering information. So for context for all of you, on average, salespeople spend between 20 and 45% of their time inputting information into a CRM. And so that's time that they could be selling. Our target market, growth stage companies on the verge of scale who are just at a point where they've grown fast enough where their teams are starting to lose contact with each other. And also the processes that work for them at the beginning, i.e. storing their contacts in a Google spreadsheet, no longer apply. And we're looking to fix things like marketing and sales alignment, scale without shared KPIs, and increase growth without the infrastructure to support it. Our goal is to take these things, decrease misalignment, turn those unknowns into knowns, and fix those customer gaps that really cause holes in the relationship. Our potential market is huge. While our initial growth stage market we're targeting is around $45 million, the total CRM market in 2019 was $56.6 billion. However, the interesting part of that is that when we look at the total amount spent to fix CRMs, is $8 billion a year. So people are spending $8 billion a year to fix a system that they think works. Now, what are we doing? We're raising a seed round, $1.75 million. We're recruiting a technical team. We're going to hire contractors to build a beta. And then once we have that beta, we're going to be recruiting marketing and our initial sales team just to figure out where we can actually place this within the market before we go into our public B1 launch. Now, the current plan, right now, we're creating the product wireframes and system framework. I can take you guys through that if you want at any point. It's a thing that I'm building. Next, raising a seed round, recruiting a technical team, and then we're going to build and launch a public SaaS beta. Amongst the Modern Sales Pros, which is a group that has 15,000 operators within it, and Wizard of Ops, which is a group that has 1,200 revenue operators within it. Then we're going to raise Series A, create our final product, and public launch. Then there's a thing about me, and thank you. So looking at the way I structured this, I have too many problem slides. I have two, should be one. But I went introduction, who I am, what the problem is that we're solving, why now, basically. Like, why is this the perfect time for this thing to launch? What are we doing? What is the customer gap it will fix? How will we make sure that we're fixing it? That's these next two. Then who are we targeting? Who's going to buy this? The reason I know this market works, and I can give that context, I should have given that context, is these are the people, these are my current clients. So these are people that are currently paying around $8 billion a year to align their systems. Growing companies that have scaled beyond their CRM capacity. Like, increased goals, their VCs expect them to go 3 times year over year. They don't have the infrastructure to support that. Their sales team and marketing team, their marketing team is sending over MQLs, which means marketing qualified lead. The sales team is sitting there going, well, we don't want MQLs. What we want, or we just want good leads. And there's no communication there. And there's no shared KPI between them, which is this marketing and sales misalignment. Then how many of these things can I sell? What am I doing? What am I planning to raise? And what am I going to do with said money? Then once I have the money, what is the time frame? Then me. This is a terrible photo. Ignore that photo. And finally, the pitch. Thank you. So anybody have any questions on the back end of that? I see there's chats.
I have a couple. I'm quite familiar with what you're doing and I really admire it. So hopefully it works out for you because especially, I just have a question concerning one of the slides you're writing, why now? I would just find it interesting if you bring up the fact that everybody is social distancing. And so companies are going, literally everything is going online. So everything is becoming digital. And I think this would be a very big, it will be a very big added advantage of value for you, because I know that all companies are shifting to digital, and with the CRM, with the SaaS model, with everything, they're trying to get everything on one specific platform, like all the blah blah that comes with it. And I think just giving more value to how the workforce and technology is evolving, and how they're getting, I don't know if you know Josh Burson.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like HR and technology together into one platform, I think that would be, but it's great what you're doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question about the pitch itself. So are we gonna cover all of this in 1 minute?
No, so this is just to give context. I was about to say that James just did a wonderful example of sort of what you'll be doing for the final pitch. So the point of this program, starting with this session 1, is to incrementally build your knowledge base, expose you to mentors, you know, that are each experts on each of these stages, whether that James went over, whether it's like, you know, how do you know your idea and your problem statement? The next one would be about how do you know who your target market is? And then how do you test that market? So that long gap between session 2, which is in November, and session 3, which is in February, you're actually going to have really interesting activities that should be enjoyable and educational, where you're testing to see who are, you know, will people actually pay for this? You know, who are those people? So then you can target your like advertising for those people, and you'll have experts along the way. So does that make sense? All of these will build, and then you'll be able to, on session 5, when Cody comes back, you'll be able to like have your perfect 10-slide deck, just like James just did a great job demonstrating that, and you'll be really ready. You'll know what you're talking about. So then when you pitch in front of the investors, whether you're actually going to move forward or you're doing it for educational purposes, you will have a great experience. You will know what you're doing. You know what each slide means. And so then I was going to ask James, if you wouldn't mind, James, then doing a 1-minute pitch version of what you just explained, so that you can role model for everyone. And even Fumika can time you. So even if you go over, you even get cut off, because even like the best in the business, like James, sometimes, you know, can be loquacious, and that's all good. I certainly can. So that's it. Great question.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that for a minute. Yeah, and you can mute me now. I'm okay with that for this. Yeah, so this is, I'm targeting this pitch. This 1-minute pitch is going to be targeted. So you're an active VC in the enterprise B2B SaaS space. So I'm expecting you to know a lot of the terminology I'm going to be using. So great to meet you. I am from Alliance. We're a CRM built to increase alignment within organizations. So how often do your clients complain about their CRMs? I know likely they're using Salesforce. 34% of businesses do. But what I've realized is, looking at the market, currently we're seeing that while everyone is using the same platform, and CRM continues, and Salesforce continues to gain market share year over year, what we're seeing every single year is that the number of CRM implementations that fail continue to go up, while the number of people that are looking for CRM implementations are skyrocketing. So what we've built is Alliance. It's a CRM system built to align the entire revenue team under a flexible, intuitive system. We're looking to raise 1.6.
There you go.
See, went a little bit over.
Sorry about that, James. I figured I should be strict about this.
I appreciate it.
And James, with that, what do you think, real quick, is a great way for people to think about saying like the most important thing, like what to start in the first 20 seconds, the main points to hit, and then maybe end with the asks, like for structure for within like that minute time frame?
So quickly, who you are. Relate the problem to the person you're talking to. So make sure they understand the market. The moment you say it, you'll see it in their eyes if they don't. Then from there, why you're solving this problem? Why now? And finally, brief pitch at the end. Like, don't make it about what you're trying to get out of them. Make it about telling that story, getting them interested, and then building it in. Most of the time, for example, you're never going to get a full minute to just talk at somebody. That almost never happens, honestly. You're going to get more like 5 seconds, and then they're going to be like, okay, tell me what you're actually looking for. And then you're going to have that question. I'm going to try to invite someone later who is great at this, specifically stopping people in the middle of their conversation or the middle of their pitch and then asking them direct questions that they aren't prepared for. And hopefully we'll all have fun with that when it happens.
So I just want to say that if you're nervous, if you mess up, it's okay. Like, there's no judgment. Like, it's going to happen, and you're brave for doing it. So there's no way you can fail unless you just don't do it. I want to really emphasize that. And the best thing is, if you mess up, if it's sloppy, if you get cut off when you're halfway through, that means that you're going to just get better and better. And there is zero shame in that. You're awesome for doing it.
Yep. All right, who wants to go first?
I think we can go first.
And then we can go second in case.
All right.
One last logistical question for Famika. Do you want them to say a word or something that can trigger the timing? What would be helpful to you?
I think what would be helpful is first just let me know who's speaking. So just your name. And then just say ready, and then I'll start.
So ready will be, it's first your name, and then ready will key the beginning.
Okay, so our group actually consists of 4 people. Can everybody just like say hi for my group?
Hello.
Hi.
And they should just all pop up now. Okay, and we can start now. Hi guys, my name is Kevin, and my group consists of 4 people, which is Shuhao, Michelle, and Michael. And our product idea is an app that is called Grabbage.
We believe in promoting environmental sustainability and human health. The way we achieve such goals is by providing an easily accessible and rewarding method for you, and our app happens to be great for that.
So our app tracks the amount of garbage that you throw into trash cans, whether it's your own or ones you find litter on the street. When a certain amount of garbage thrown is reached, a gift card or a coupon will be rewarded. We have chosen to do this because we see the need to address the environmental issue of waste management.
And waste management is a contemporary issue, and we want to take action as soon as possible. As a motivated group of young entrepreneurs, we desire to make a community a better place to the best of our abilities. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We always clap. Everybody claps for everybody. Because getting up here and pitching is hard. As you will all experience multiple times. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any quick feedback? Does anybody think that anything that they liked out of that? I personally really liked, you guys were definitely rehearsed. I liked how you talked through your idea, brought it in. One thing I would love to see is, and this is something that we're all going to do, is kind of competitive market analysis, looking at what that looks like, getting a feel for what people are doing currently to solve this and how you can best tackle that. All right.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other feedback or anything? All right. Our next team.
Awesome. Just before we start the timer, it's so stressing, that timer. We didn't know that everybody should present, so we decided to like condense everything in 1 minute by one person. So totally just fine. For that time, totally if it's fine. Awesome. Yeah. So before the timer starts, I'm just gonna introduce very briefly my team. So we wrote our names, Team Bagas, so you can just like try to like figure out who everyone in the team. We're consisting of 5 people, and you can start the timer now. So hi everyone, we're a design management program. We're actually focusing on bagasse. What is bagasse? Bagasse is the residue of sugarcane. So it's actually a very environmental friendly product that we're trying to invest more time into. We're currently in the define phase. So we're not, so that's great because it follows within the line of the workshop. We're still not at the problem solving. We're just seeing what can we get out of bagasse. Why are we focusing on bagasse now? Because especially with everything that's focusing towards more environmental friendly products, especially with the virus, everybody wants to use things that are recyclable, reusable, etc. Why us? Because we consist of a team of, we're a cross-functional team. So everybody has a special input that would be very valuable to the core business plan of our product. So we're still investing into the multiple products that can be of an outcome of using bagasse. How can we use it? In what circumstances? And I'm 4 seconds soon. That's it.
All right, you got a lot into a minute. Like a lot into a minute. Traditional circumstances, I would say breathe, but we only gave you a minute. So that was very good. I think I would like to have, if you could have some primer examples of bagasse and where it can be used, that would be great. And currently, like, market size is a big thing for all of these, especially when you're looking at something that people don't traditionally know. Like, I legitimately didn't know that existed, and now I know it's used for electrical generators. Who knew? Like, it's really cool, and it's an interesting product. I think that digging into that a little bit more and saying, giving some market size examples, saying how it could displace it and how it's more efficient. So one of my clients is a solar company, and they are continually talking about replacing the replacement rate for fossil fuels with their technology. And it's very interesting hearing that, because it's immediately saying, okay, we're profitable, we're making money, and we're also making the world a better place while doing that. If you can pair all of those things with real numbers, that's the end.
Thank you for this feedback. This is why we're actually looking at the multiple things, because there's so much outcome. And hopefully if we have a Slack channel with everyone, we'd love to share, like, just FYI, do it yourself things that people can do at home, or even product that on a daily basis you actually see that are made of bagasse, but you had no idea. So yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Second Skin.
All right, Second Skin.
Yeah, outstanding. We can start the timer now. We are Second Skin, innovation in fashion, essential lifestyle accessories. We're applying proprietary high-tech fabrics with excellent design to reinvent centuries-old apparel accessories into fashionable, functional, essential all-day, everyday wear for men, women, and kids. We're doing it by imbuing protective properties into an array of fashionable must-have accessories, all-day, everyday use apparel for the new normal, so people can get out, touch, feel, and socialize again. Why now? Our world has changed. Awareness and fear of unseen contagions is shaping how we live our lives, how we shop, socialize, and behave, and will for years to come. People want to feel safe and protected. They also want to look awesome and resume their lifestyle. Why us? My partner, Freya Tamayo, is a Pratt alumna and professor.
Oh, the mute is always a rough thing. Oh.
Sorry about
so
that.
Brutal. Yeah, I like that. I like the pitch. It's definitely practiced. I like that. I think it's largely the same thing. I would want to know kind of market sizing, what the impact currently is for those products, like who's doing it, why are they doing it, and what like what makes you specifically better. That, and then also looking at, okay, so one thing you will hear me say repeatedly, everyone, is when starting out, it's super important to be laser focused on an initial market. So you hear a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of blew up and went massive, but all of them started focusing on, as we will next time, the first 100 customers. Who are the first 100 people to buy a thing? Get 100% of a small group of people, and then you have a market and you can expand out from there. But just the beginning of everything is focus, 100% laser focus. So Cody, they needed, for this initial first year, they realized their initial market wasn't going to work for them in a COVID world. We actually both have a friend who owns a 3D printing company that went out of business 2 months ago. And Cody was laser focused on swabs. He wanted to do this nanoparticle, didn't think about it for 6 months, despite the fact that's the reason they founded the company. And the moment he could, he pivoted back. But this idea of laser focus and finding those first customers, find the opportunity you have, and then building out is something you're going to hear me say a lot. But I think I love that pitch and I like the idea of the product. I wish I knew more about it, but I think that hearing applications and some quantitative data behind it would be huge.
I also want to add that just as someone who came from a professional performance background, that I'll take any day a slower and clearer, even if you don't get every piece of information, than someone who tries to speed through all of the information. And so I really appreciated how you did that, and how so far the people have really focused on that clarity and not giving in to that rushed pace.
Yeah, your cadence was very comforting. Honestly, it was really great.
Just want to check in. Fumi, did you have anything you wanted to add, or you just?
Oh yeah, I also thought it was really awesome, and I was really hooked. But I think maybe it's just a young, I don't know, but I think having a lot more energy in how you're expressing yourself in the pitch could really be a great tool to use, because that energy will go back into the audience and they'll be even more excited about your product.
Thank you. That was great feedback.
Yeah. Counterpoint, don't do too much energy. Don't. I've seen so many people that walk into a room and they're just like, oh, I'm really excited to talk to you about this product today. This is going to be great. Let's talk about this, blah, 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 blah. And you walk away with nothing because you can't understand them. So.
Excellent job.
Right level of energy.
Really, really
That's
good
great.
job. Yeah, loved it.
All right, who wants to go next? Oh, wait, you know what we didn't do? We didn't clap for Bagasse or for Second Skin. So, let's get after it here. Wildly inappropriate of us. Well done.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah, so could I start?
Yes, and which team you in?
So I don't think we have a team name. So I'm Leo. My teammate is Xiujie, Christy, Grace, and Ifan. Okay, let me begin. So I want to share a short story with everyone. Since pandemic, exhibition and events are closed for a long period of time, and John only chat with his friend by phone. In one day, his friends called him and he said he found a platform called Virtual Citizens that hosts events and exhibition on a virtual space. So John selects one of his favorite artists and invites his friends to the virtual space. When he entered it, he was amazed by the beauty of the environment, and the space are really huge and unique. So at the virtual space, he met many different people who also participate in the virtual space and make a lot of lots of new friends. We wish to provide a platform for artists, students, and freelancers to presenting their works and holding virtual events in an immersed form. A platform that can help people to browse, can either browse and visit events online or with a.
Okay. So great job. And again, that's the contrast. So you did a great job getting so much information, but in contrast to Second Skin, where it was a nice slow pace, then that one, it's hard to, even if you're getting in so many points, it's hard for the brain to absorb it, right? To orally process if it's at a very quick pace. So thank you so much for doing that. You did a great job, but I would say to everyone, think about how you can be a little bit more calm and slow and maybe not say everything, right? So just be thinking about that as you're seeing these before you go. James.
Yeah, an important note here is that nobody is ever going to take more than 3 things away from any conversation you have with them. Ever. Like, you're going to take 3 things away from today, and I'm pretty sure what they are because we've been highlighting them again and again and again. It's when you're doing a pitch like this, I got events. I know they aren't happening. And I know you're going to make them better, but honestly, I don't know how. Because it felt like it was a fire hose of information coming through. And I'm intrigued enough where I would ask more, but I also want, like, just go back, write out your high level points. Don't write out the whole pitch. Write out your high level points, come in, practice it a bunch of times. You're never going to get it 100% right. You guys saw me pitch. That was rough. I'm kicking myself over like a dozen things that I said. And like, you're going to never get it 100% right, but just get comfortable existing in that ambiguous space and existing within the time frame. Like, just mirrors, you see it in bad 90s movies, people like rehearsing in front of mirrors before they do things. It's real. Do that. Literally, we're going to do this between second and third. I'm going to ask you to take your camera phones, walk around the city, and pitch into the camera phone on the street, like with people around you. And it's a little bit easier than it was last year, because last year we didn't get to wear masks. This year we do. So yeah. But otherwise, I'm excited to learn more, honestly. And I look forward to seeing your pitch develop. All right. All right, who would like to go?
Me. Go.
Oh.
Go next.
Let me know when you're ready.
Who's going?
Yeah, a bunch of us all said the same thing.
Yeah. I think Amy was first.
Okay.
Okay.
So I actually have a team of people. So there's me, and then I guess everyone can say hi. I have 4.
Hello.
There's 4 people.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Leila.
I'm Christine.
Yeah, and I'm Amy. We don't have a team name. So yeah. Now we're gonna start our pitch. So we came together with this idea with like commonalities that we all grew up in an era where the climate change was an emergency, and we also lived in increasingly cramped urban spaces, and now we are existing in an era where a pandemic has left us spending a majority of our time in our homes. And so bringing these 3 concepts together, we came up with this idea for a sustainable solution for urban dwellers like ourselves. It would be sourced from recycled or reclaimed materials, but also could be recycled. It can be stacked into a partition wall, shelving units, or it could be a holder for plants along the walls. This is kind of like our first product in a line of products for small urban spaces. And we really believe in this product and hope think that it has great.
All right. That was that. Thank you very much. That was good. You hit all the high points of the product. I got a lot of what. I didn't get a ton of why. I think I liked what you were doing. I don't know. It's urban dwelling product. I want to hear a little bit more. You talk about a range of products. Tell me about the one you're starting with. You're starting with one product. Say what that is, why it's unique, who's going to buy it, and then from there, once you've grabbed the audience with this awesome product. Whoa. Tad, would you mind muting? All right. Yeah, once you've grabbed the audience, go ahead and start expanding upon what you're building.
Yeah, I think I mentioned, but our first product would be like a modular unit that could be used for different purposes. And I think that's maybe where it got confusing, but thank you.
I also, one thing that I also did notice was you say a lot of and uhs. I think sometimes like just giving yourself a tiny little like half a millisecond break is okay to just regroup and then start again.
So that's it's a great point. That's all of us are uncomfortable with a pause. You see what I just did there? And I think that discomfort with the pause is what creates what's called pregnant pauses. And it's something that we're only going to get better at. And also, again, as someone with a performance background, Amy, you did a really good job. So excellent. And all of you guys are doing great. And you're just awesome for just having the bravery to do this.
Thank you.
So who wants to go next?
I want to go to
Trey
next.
and I can go. Oh.
I believe I heard Eric first.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. What team are you in? Do you have any other team members, Eric?
I remember the group name is the Inventionary Design.
Okay. All right. Let me
Okay.
know when you are ready.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Hello, every guy. Hello, good afternoon, every guys. My name is Eric. First of all, I introduce my teammates. Teammates is the Janice. We are graduate student at the Pratt Institute with the ComD. Today, our team the project is about to help the localized homeless. According to the statistic of the U.S. government website, there are about over 30,000 people who sleep on the street in New York. And when without saying, this has become a serious social problem. In order to the local residents who stimulate to the participating donation for the local elders, our Help Homeless app is an aid user donation platform that can donate the funds and their materials. In conclusion, our app's straightforward donation process contributes to the part for the local homeless and consistently give the updated information about the local homeless. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Good. Like I think you have the same thing where it's take some breaths, like invest in some pauses when you're talking. I know it's a lot of information to get in there. It's yeah, exactly 1 minute. Like
Yes.
you took 3 minutes worth of speaking,
yeah,
and shoved it into that, which while it was awesome, it was super hard to follow.
Yes, push me hard. I can believe that.
But yeah, so I think overall, I'm intrigued to see where you go. I'd love to hear again, and maybe it was in there, and I apologize if it wasn't, some numbers into like magnitude of the problem, urgency of solving it, all of those things. And then and like a bit deeper dive into how so we can dive into that a little bit more as we go, but I think you did a really good job getting a lot in there. I think just invest in those pauses and try to hit like 3 key points when you're going through.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. It's very helpful. Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Gayatri, and my teammate is Zozaya. Zozaya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Zozaya Yusufshing, and we are designers who, as is the theme, care about the environment. And we're working on like a line of furnishings that are sustainable and made out of recycled materials. And we're also aiding in the customers to choose from our products in like a web design service, which Gayatri will get into later. And why do we need it? I don't think we need an explanation for that. And we really believe in good quality design and it lasting a long time, serving its need. So
our website is divided into 2 parts. We're providing 2 different services. One would be the sustainable approach, where we would list the materials we use for our products, and we would tell the layman the carbon footprint for them to be motivated to save. The second part would be a database where you can arrange your furniture according to the space that you want, and it would be as though you are your own interior designer. And so you would be able to drag our products and put them into a space where you could design your own room, and there would be a consultant to help you along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I like that. I think always say the why. I know it's like feels redundant and you're talking to a room full of people that are in a design school and you feel like everybody here gets it. Always just, if you have an opportunity to pull at heartstrings when you're talking about your business, do it. Even if people are all on the same page, even if everybody in the room gets it, just reach in and pull those. Like,
that's great. Never assume about the why. And also if there's any acronyms or jargon terms or like terms that might not be familiar at all, identify what they are as well. So you don't want to assume that everyone like just knows. And that's a great point.
Yeah. I think also, I think there's a really interesting consulting component to this that could be cool down the road. I think one thing that you're going to need to be 100% covered on is the competitor landscape. Just understand who your competitors are, understand what they're doing, why, because while it sounds like an awesome idea, I feel like it might be a crowded space. And so that differentiation point is going to be super crucial for you.
Thank you.
All right. Did we remember to clap? I believe we did, but we should just clap again because why not? All right.
So I believe it is Wenjing next. Please make sure to say you're ready so I can time you properly.
Okay. So far, it's just me and my team and our craft master in China. But I think I'm ready. So I am a sustainable jewelry designer and maker. My art practice aims to spread awareness about the environment and encourage people to reevaluate and re-examine their behavior towards sustainable living. We're in the midst of a revolution, and my current work explore from a philosophical perspective about the way we as humans are damaging our environment. I really hope my work can help people find the true values of life and build a new dialogue with nature. As I develop my craft and business, I really want to bring more layers to this concept, as urban setting is a collection of all kinds of people from different backgrounds and classes. This is my target audience, and my aim is to make this concept relatable to fine jewelry and crafts. One way I do it is by incorporating traditional jewelry making, especially enameling, that was only accessible to royalty, into a modern dynamic using technologies like 3D printing for a broader audience. And my work.
All right, that was good. I like that. I think there were some parts that I had a hard time understanding because of the microphone. It sounds a little bit like you're underneath a bridge in a fishbowl. But I like the idea, and I think design, it's an interesting space because there's always new opportunity, and there's always a ton of competition. And so I just want to, so for that, I would love to dive into kind of that, again, that competitive landscape, why different, but also when you're talking about, you're going to utilize 3D printing, you're going to use other manufacturing technologies. It's the prototype is going to be super crucial for you, like showing what you're building, why you're building it, having it in hand. We had a great example last year. Mia Russell made a backpack made out of cork for the pitch competition. It was fantastic. So always just having something to show what you're building really helps that the why.
Do you think if I should have like design in my PowerPoint for the pitch?
If you're not gonna have something physical, have the design. Like if you can't, always it's better to show rather than tell, because it's really hard for someone to look and to listen to someone describe a physical object and then picture it in their head. Unless you're a masterful storyteller, it's really difficult to do that. So having something either on screen being used by someone or in hand so that you can actually hand it to someone and they can actually feel it, which we're in digital world, so that's hard. But yes, having that on screen would be great. In fact, that advice goes for literally everybody. Better to show rather than tell.
I believe Anashwara, if I'm saying your name correctly, please, or incorrectly, please let me know. But I believe you are up next.
Yes, that's right.
You know when you're ready.
Yes, so we're a team, me, Anashwara, and Jauka Kiki, and we don't have a firm name. So, yes. So the world is rapidly changing, and design now more than ever needs to be climate conscious, socially equitable, and future oriented. We need design that works across scales for individuals, communities, and cities.
Effortlessly accessible and rigorously designed, we tailor-make spaces that address your changing needs. Our community and research-based approach aims to bridge the gap between education, outreach, and practice to create actively diverse ethical designs that across disciplines from interiors to urban planning.
And we all come from different academic and cultural background, which ensures a diversity of thoughts within our team that helps us connect with broad client bases. And all three of us are rigorous and value creativity and innovation in our design. Before we come to Pratt, all of us has working experience in different terrain. So that's it.
All right. I really like that. I think we're seeing a theme amongst the teams. There's a lot of eco-conscious design happening. I think it would be valuable for us to have kind of bring that. It's even more critical that we bring that differentiation in, because it's going to be a lot of that same message again and again and again and again. So really highlight how you're expanding on, how you're being laser focused in on those customers, and how you're also expanding on what's already being done. And also probably communicate with some of the other teams. If you're in eco-conscious design, talk with the other teams, collaborate with the other teams, make sure that you're all, if you're working in the same space, maybe that's a really interesting opportunity to partner up. If you're working in different spaces, maybe that's an interesting chance to partner up and like enhance each other's presentations, enhance each other's businesses. Like nobody here is competing, but there are a lot of people in this space. So showing that differentiation and building something together is super critical for when we have this many people that are doing similar things.
Awesome. And next is, Shenki.
Yeah, next. Hello. I think we have not a team name yet, and my team number is Xin and Tai. We are all from industry design major, and would you guys come out to say hello to everyone?
Hi, guys. Hi, I'm Tai.
Okay, I'm ready. Yeah, so what are we doing is to provide a personalized and customized nursing service for the elderly, especially in the field of healthcare, and cooperate with professional institutions such as hospitals, medical schools to provide professional services. And the reason why we chose this service is that the first reason is that the population of elderly is increasing seriously, and the next is that the aging gradually becomes a social problem. We hope to provide a high quality service and products to elevate this problem, and at the same time it also helps to provide a better quality of life for the elderly. And why not is that more and more people just pay more attention to the quality of life of the elderly. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
So this is a super important problem that you're looking to solve. And it's something that is, again, very timely. I like that you're working towards this. I think I want to hear, like, again, it's that prototype product situation where it's, I want to hear specifics. I want to hear what you're building. What is the actual product? What I want to see something, for lack of a better term. So getting that built in would be huge into your pitch. I think overall your cadence was great. I like the way you presented it. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, because on the application that we just noticed that we can design a product or we can just produce a service. So is that if we want to provide a service, do we need to also to make a physical products just combine with our service, or just we can only provide a service like nowadays other service?
You can, this is for anything, literally anything, whether it's a service, whether we had someone making an AI game last year.
Yeah.
It can be anything, honestly. And so the whole goal here is taking whatever your idea is, figuring out what category it fits into. Is it a product? Is it a service? When I say product, it's important to note that when I say product, I mean anything.
Okay.
By product, I come from a background where I went 3D printing, software as a service, back to 3D printing, to VR, to blockchain, to software as a service again. Like everything is a product to me. It doesn't matter what it is. So when I say product, that's just what I mean. So everybody has that context.
I understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Christina.
Hi, I'm Katie Rose, and I am a communication design major right now. And we will begin. For Soleil Wellness to have it sit in your heart, if you could just imagine yourself being exactly where you want to be, whether it's a dream destination or a place in your local environment that is the height of your reality. So just let that image settle in your mind. And that's essentially what Soleil Wellness will do. It's a creative agency with wellness corporation entitled into it. So the idea is to work on a local level with creating global change. So having your local environment be present, so working with creative development within your area and then taking it into the global sector. So we will work with retreats and taking art as an element of travel, because that's where I can speak to. It would be wellness daily, so taking care of ourselves and traveling with a global lens and beginning where we are now. So working with Brooklyn development and transformation design agencies, and then taking it with us to places in the exotic sector. So creating change here and around the world. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I love the cadence. I thought you did a really good job pacing yourself through that. I think that I would love to hear a bit, again, market sizing, really great. And a bit more about, so the wellness, getting kind of travel, all of that, seeing what that looks like from an actual, again, product standpoint would be huge.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely wanted to speak on the market topic, and I got more into like the hard space, but yeah, working on it being a $1.6 trillion industry and how that works during COVID is definitely something like on a longer section. I'd love to
and I think there's something really interesting right now with travel space where you're seeing this transition from people showing with their travel, like going places, showing like, okay, I'm next to this amazing waterfall in Fiji, this is amazing, but to being like that more aspirational level where it's like everybody wants to travel. We all want to be somewhere. So if you can create an experience to transport someone, that's super powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tad, you're up next.
Great. Okay. So before we start, it's my teammate. We have 4-person team. We're called Cookland Academy. And with me today to present is Irma Barrera, and she is a creative communications professional. And I come from a content strategy background in startups as well from Silicon Valley, as you are. Thanks for giving us the time, and we could start now. So Cookland Academy is a nutritional supplemental education program for elementary students. We found this problem, and it affects all classes, all types of people. Now, Irma.
So in an effort to educate children around food consumption, the idea here is to cultivate healthy students. And we want to get those students to become healthy through hands-on cooking, gardening, education, and transforming the relationship with food. And so what we learned through the competitive landscape around New York City is that there are programs that are called nutritional education programs that are run throughout New York City schools. And so we were able to interview most of our competitors, and what we found was that there are significant issues with these programs today. We found that there aren't enough NEP is that.
We'll have to stop you.
That minute is hard. It's a hard minute. So I'm very interested to learn more. I love the market research coming out with that up front. I think, again, there's, as we've seen, trying to get that 3 minutes worth of content into a 1 minute space is impossible unless you're talking a mile a minute. So for that 3 minute pitch, and we're doing this 1 minute, it's very intentional, not just because we have a bunch of people, but because we want people to be able to condense their pitch. We want you to be confident enough so that if you walk in and somebody's like, you have 4 minutes to go, you're sitting there going, oh, that's a lot of time. I feel really comfortable doing this. Like, our goal is to make you uncomfortable now so that you're not uncomfortable later. And it feels like we're succeeding in that. But so I actually really I love the idea, and this is something super important right now. Health food in schools it's been an issue for a while. And I think if you have a means of solving that, that's awesome, because as I mentioned, I have a 15-month-old daughter, and a few years from now, she's going to be entering said schools, and that would be great. But that said, I think I would love to hear the how. Like, we got the why, we got the who's doing it, and we got the why now. I want to hear the how. Like, what are you building? Yeah.
We designed it because I built a deck, and a lot of this stuff would have been visual. Because we could have just shown a slide of 4-H and all the other programs we work with, and then I could have went right into off-the-shelf gaming, how we're going to use that to make the workshop. But you gotta pivot when you have to. And also, we are a lot of people here are also from the design management program, so we're basically trying to get our capstone move beyond the academic ed.
If you couldn't hear him, we're part of the DM program as well. Your audio was going in and out. But we're essentially using the capstone idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I look forward to seeing how that develops. Honestly, like it'll be interesting. Everyone's doing a fantastic job. I'm super excited. Honestly, like, this is going to be fun.
This is a great group, huh, James? I'm psyched about this year.
I'm pumped.
You guys are doing amazing.
All right, who wants to go next, or who is going next?
Hi, I'm Devashti.
Yep, awesome.
So I'm participating by myself and I'm ready to go. So this lockdown, ordering food and having fun dinner nights at home is the new activity to do. Due to COVID, using reusable packaging was discouraged. So restaurants have become more dependent on single-use plastic. One box for one meal is quite some plastic, but imagine DIY meals with ingredients packed in multiple packets. So much more plastic. So to tackle this issue, I want to develop a DIY food kit designed from upcycled materials. Everything you require to make your meal will be curated in a box, and you simply have to add the final cooking process and enjoy at your own convenience. I would pitch the product to restaurants to add to the delivery system, because a lot of them have just begun to offer DIY meals. I would advertise to customers so they can demand this product, and basically think of Blue Apron plus Deliver Zero customized for the restaurants, because people want their food but not their plastic. Thank you.
That was great. I like that you got it all in. I think that was a really concise, again, practiced pitch. You probably did a little bit of mirror work there. And I like the idea. I think that it's interesting. It'll be interesting comparing that to plethora of other companies that are doing the sustainable packaging around and delivery kind of thing. There are a lot of companies doing it. It's an interesting space. I want to hear more, and I want to hear how you're going to differentiate yourself and how you're going to build within that space, because that's something that it's critical. There's no space that's for everyone. There's no space that's too crowded for you not to make an impact. Like there's no space that can't be disrupted. It's just being super careful or cognizant of that and being intentional around how you're positioning yourself to make an impact and finding those first 100 customers and using that to build your entire network. So when you're building this, I would love to hear a bit more about specifically what you're going to do that captures the attention of people that are starved for time, really stressed out, and won't really have the time to give you to kind of expand on this, i.e. any restaurateur operating through the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, guys, I just want to check in. How many people do we have that haven't gone? Just so I can manage time, since we have 13 minutes until 3 o'clock. Say I if you haven't gone yet, and you plan on going.
I haven't gone.
Okay, so we got one. Anyone else, or do we only have one left?
I still need.
Three.
Yeah, I think we have Kai, Ofer, and Calvert.
Okay, great. Just want to make, that's great.
Cool, should I go?
Yes.
All right, I guess I'm ready. All right, so I'm Ofer. I'm an interactive arts grad school student at Pratt. I've been like touring as a musician for about a decade now. And I've come to see that like live performance isn't about showing up, plugging in, and playing songs. It's kind of about creating an immersive experience for your audience. These days, often that necessitates like designing and deploying an audiovisual component to your performance, which is an art form in itself that often requires like a lot of technical experience and a lot of financial investment. And, you know, these days, because of COVID, basically all the small and medium-sized venues are closed, and many of them will never recover. And so what that means is that there's going to be a vacuum that needs to be filled by something. And so what I'm trying to do is build sort of a lighting company that creates DIY kits and writes software that allows people to build their own sort of cheap lighting stage setups.
Honestly, I am super fascinated. I'm super fascinated by this. I think this is a really cool product, because I know a lot of podcasters, and their number one problem when they're starting out is most of them record their booth sessions and they'll put it on Twitch, they'll put it on wherever. And the number one challenge they have are these lighting kits. So not just for travel musicians, not just for that, but getting that for people that are traveling and creating these podcast studios and recording. There's a market there as well. I think it's interesting because at a certain point you're competing with the spaces, but I think I would love to hear more about that. And I like the cadence of the pitch as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd be happy to show you more in the future. I have some stuff.
Cool.
And I believe up next is Kai.
Hello. As said, my name is Kai. I'm sorry my video's not on. I'm having some connectivity issues, and I am ready. I'm creating an outdoor apparel and soft goods company, specifically with our target demographic being those in the Northeast, 16 to 25, and engaging or looking to engage with the environment. Our goal is to foster a relationship in a younger audience with nature, enable self-expression, and work to solve environmental issues in our collective backyard. This is kind of being formed over seeing that older, more established outdoor companies are failing to grab that audience and enable their self-expression. Thank you.
Did you go on mute? Sorry, just making sure.
Kai, did you finish? Were you just super efficient? Okay.
Yes, I was.
Oh, good job. Okay. So you did it in 30 seconds.
I muted myself as I was about to start talking. That's really great. Nothing that I haven't said before, except for the fact that use all the space you have. Like, amazing that you were super efficient, got it done in 30 seconds. Give us a bit more. I love the fact that you have your persona research. You know who you're targeting. You've done research into this, and you know all of that. I think giving yourself the time to breathe and expand on what you're saying is going to be critical, because it's great to be concise, but it's awesome to tell a story and say, how many of you have had this issue? Like, because there are probably some people in here that are relate, yeah. I know.
I think that's a great point, James. Yeah, no, I love what you're saying, because I was wondering when you said, other companies have failed at this, then I was like, how'd they fail? I want to hear a story. You know what I mean? And then it'd be like, oh, I didn't even know that. And then like, oh, cool. So it brings us in and it gets us invested in you.
Pull them heartstrings whenever you can.
Thank you very much. We'll do.
All right, Calvert.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Calvert, and I'm ready whenever you are, Fumika. Thank you. Okay, so we are architects who are super passionate about designing effective libraries and learning space. And we're also well aware of how poorly informed a lot of the decisions are with regard to the foundations of these capital projects, whether these are projects about renovating existing spaces or building new spaces. The data that people refer to is wildly inefficient. So what I'm proposing is a system of data collection specific to these spaces, especially new spaces on campuses and in public libraries, that will set architects and designers up to succeed because of the meaning or because of the way in which we're able to not only document and record that data, but provide the analysis of that data as well. That's it. Thank you.
That's awesome. I like it. I love to hear how much it costs per year. From that, I know how much roughly, because one of my clients is a steel company, and they just took a $22 million return which I know it's weird, the return in the steel industry, but that's a thing that they did. Well, it's actually more of a chargeback, but it was because the plans had been drawn for the wrong foundation of the building. And so all of their measurements were wrong. And that was fun for them, I'm sure. They do $1.3 billion a year in steel, so I don't think it's really that much of a problem for them. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I want to learn more. I like the pacing. I like the pitch. I think that hearing some numbers attached to it would be huge.
Understood.
Hey,
cool.
So I want to check in. Is there anyone else who hasn't gone that wants to go? Speak now, please. Yes. You had a question? No? Okay. So great. Guys, this is amazing. We have 5 minutes remaining, and in those 5 minutes, we're going to go over what the next steps are. You guys all know that we're going to see you again in November. We're going to have new mentors along with the team, Fumika, James, and myself. And James, you want to kind of walk them through the most efficacious way that they could prepare for session 2 and what to get excited about?
Yeah, so one of the things you all heard me talk about a lot today was competition. So I want everyone here to go out and find, and we'll send you the questions, the things that you're looking for. We'll send them an email, but you're going to be researching 5 companies in your space, what they're doing. And if you can't find 5 companies, you can find 5 companies that are doing what you're doing. Find 5 companies that are doing what you're doing. Find 3 people who have failed at doing what you're doing. And you're going to be doing research around what those companies are, why they failed, why they succeeded, and how you're different. And we're going to have you craft problem statements. So what we want to hear are problem statements around what you're doing, the problem you're solving, and who you're solving it for in 1 sentence.
So we're going to also, we're going to send you this. So don't worry if you didn't write all of that down. We're going to send it to you and so that you guys can all see that and have time to do that. We'll also send you everyone's contact, including Cody's. We ask you to remember to please be mindful that our mentors and our speakers are doing this pro bono of their own volition, you know, of their own generosity. And so we want to make sure that we don't, you know, inundate them with tons and tons of like questions or like favor seeking, but instead like really thoughtful things that you could only find without, Googling. I know you guys are amazing and we haven't had this issue very much in the past, but I always just like to say it just to do good housekeeping, right? That these people, they, especially let them know how much you appreciate it if you got value out of it. Like that's like some of the best thing that you can do is like, hey, I really appreciated this. Say one thing specifically, this is my career development background kicking in, one thing specifically that you especially appreciated about what they said. So you're showing personalization and specificity, and always lead with appreciation. And then if you have one question, and make sure it's a question that you cannot answer through a Google search, right? And then that's a great way to do it. And always, you don't ever want to like ask for a favor, as we've all established. It's just good relationship building. And then when you can always do that later on, perhaps, because these are people that are part of the program. And let's see. Oh, next, I can also tell you that one of the next speakers is Ray Mendez, who'll be here for session 2. He's incredible, who is a brand consultant who literally works with Apple, Fortune 500s, and is the reason that the Empire State Building lights up, because he actually consulted for the Empire State Building, completely rebranded them, and that's why you see all the different colors. And he can tell you all about that and more. He's also a close friend of mine now, so I'm so excited for you to meet him and the other amazing speaker that James and I are. We actually literally have an embarrassment of options, because we have people that want to work with you. And again, it's because you guys are amazing, you care, and you don't take advantage of the speakers by asking for favors and so forth. And we love you for that. And James or Fumika, any final thoughts?
Thank you all. This was awesome. I'm very excited to continue learning from all of you, and hopefully we can get some really cool businesses going out of this, and that would be really amazing. So thank you all. If you need anything, you have my email address, and I am always around. Again, if I don't reply the first time, hit me again the next day. Or if you're Carl, email me 5 times.
Because I love you, James. Yeah. I'll text you too. Yeah, thanks everybody. And we love working with you, and your success is our success. We're in this together, and we love when you show up and when you participate. So thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Got a quick question.
Thank
Are we
you.
going to do the Slack channel thing that somebody suggested earlier?
Oh, the Slack channel thing. Thanks. Yeah.
I was
so,
thinking we were gonna do a poll. We talked about poll, but if we're okay with doing a Slack channel, I could set one up.
yeah, let's just start with that, and then the other thing is, Famika, this is for you. Just let's make sure we do whatever we have to do to make sure that this gets recorded, because I know that if you sign off in a certain way, like it doesn't get recorded. So that's my housekeeping item.
Thank you all. This was wonderful.
Thank
you, everyone. Bye.
Can we get to share with their teammates?
Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
See you.